Those Dad Guys sit down for an exclusive interview with Scott Klopfenstein from Real Big Fish.
Joining us now is former vocalist, I'm going to say this, trumpeter, maybe, I'm not sure which one, with Real Big Fish. If you're not familiar right now, you can find him on Let's Make Music. He does this every Thursday and Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Morning, 10 a.m. That's kind of redundant. Yeah. You can find him on YouTube. Scott Klopfenstein joins us. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm great, actually. Thanks for having me.
What's going on? Thanks for dressing up today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I don't, it's the funniest thing. Like today, my girls were like, Dad, because I am the keeper of structure in my home. My wife is in real estate, and so she's like constantly working. And so on Thursdays, I essentially come down while people are getting ready to start school. And I start setting up for Mech Music at around 8:00 in the morning. Oh. And so then when I come up, I find that not really much has happened. So I come up, I'm like, clothes on, TV's off. Let's look at, let's set up, because everybody's on a different computer now too.
Yeah.
But they were like, I think I want to wear a dress today. And because everybody's been in like sweats,
yeah,
and like whatever. And I find that I never change this hoodie. I live in this hoodie, to tell you the truth.
It's all about hoodies right now, I think.
It is. I've got my blues hoodie on.
Yeah.
You got your zip-up hoodie on, Joe. It's fantastic.
So let me ask you quickly. Let's Make Music is such a cool thing, singing tunes to the kids, and the adults get into it too. It's so fun. I've been watching it. Where'd you get the idea to start with Let's Make Music?
Some dear friends of my wife and I's have I guess it's kind of a grocery / beer / food. It's kind of like an all-in-one kind of location that it's like an amusement park for your mouth.
Sounds like my favorite place right now.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And so they have 2 locations. One is in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn, and then the other one is in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And when they opened the second location in Williamsburg, we were trying to figure out, and I've been involved with them for a long time, helping them. They had a underground restaurant that they ran for a while too. And so when I was home and not touring, I would just for kicks, like wait tables, because it was so fun. And I like dealing with people when they are doing things that are about self-care. You know what I mean? Like I find the most satisfaction in my life when I am participating in people's desire for self-care. So that's music, food, any kind of, spiritual, any of that kind of, like, I'm always game. So like, I helped my friends out working at this place, and they were trying to figure out how to get people in the mornings, because it was a relatively new location and it was kind of, the foot traffic was weird. And so they were like, would you want to do some kids music? And this was January of 2019, I guess. And I was like, I guess so. Why not? My kids are tired of listening to me play music. And I had a few tunes that I kind of had played for my girls when they were little. And then I just started thinking about more. And I mean, I started, and for like the first 2 weeks, I had like maybe 1 or 2 kids. And then all of a sudden, just this wave, and so my Saturdays, and it started with 2 shows. And then before the world came apart, I had 4 shows a week. And so my Saturdays are generally like, and so maybe anywhere from 10 to 15 families. So it's adults and kids.
Yeah.
And then my Thursday crew was like a good 15 kids as well. And you got like nannies bringing them and some moms and some work work from home dads and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it just became this, I didn't know how long I would do it for, but it's unbelievably fulfilling because it takes some of I love being a parent. It's one of my, it's the best. Being a parent is truly like, I have done extraordinary things in my lifetime that many people don't get to do. And somehow the one thing that like is very typical, is one of the most normal things a person can do, is the most extraordinary.
Awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I get to talk to, I get to talk to the parents about parenting, and I've done a lot of reading about parenting. My eldest daughter was diagnosed on the spectrum. So like, we like suited up and showed up for that challenge right away. And we started reading a lot about child development and autism and Asperger's and all the things that are kind of under what's now called the spectrum. And then also I did a lot of personal reading on music therapy, and just really diving into a lot of like case studies and things like that to try to figure out how to create something that was beneficial, that would be cathartic for everybody. Right. Cause like, that was part of like what we did in Real Big Fish, was it's like anybody who shows up. And if after a certain amount of time, we had people in their 30s and we had kids that were 16 years old, and you got to entertain everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's what my goal was for Let's Make Music, is like parents or nannies or grandparents, they're the ones bringing the kids, like they're present. I want them present for the music as well. Like I don't want them checked out on their phones like they would at some other class. Like I want them to laugh and be entertained, and because they're the ones who are bringing the kids, and it's their money.
Yep.
So, it was important. And I don't have a lot of like parent friends too, because I work constantly. So like, most of my friends are musicians and artists, and many of them don't have kids. So yeah, but that's kind of how it came about. My friend asked, and I was like, oh, okay. And then, it's been amazing to do this for the past like year and a half. And then even the live stream it's about the same amount of people. I mean, I'm not very good at promoting it. I think we're going to have to work on that. And plus I'm doing some things to try to like make the show a little more, I really want to connect a thing so that I can rain animals down on top of me at the end. I have like this lever pulley system with like Rube Goldberg machines. And my wife is like, she's like, let's, we still have to, keep a roof over our heads. Yeah. Like, I'm like, I'll get $1,000. And she's like, and it's coming from where?
I can't wait to see that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All sorts of crazy ideas. My youngest brother is, he's in, pre-production and art direction and television and films. And so I keep trying to get him to like build me things. And then like, he's in Southern California. I'm like, build them and send them.
Yeah, sure.
And he's like, oh no, I have a life and a job. I'm like, what would it take to build a giant teddy bear that does this?
Totally animatronic.
Yeah.
Love it.
Seems like,
Yeah. I love how you're talking about speaking to all ages when they come and enjoy the Let's Make Music. And one of the things that I love is the adult music that you play with the kid tempo. And what I'm going to get at right now is when you pull out the Ramones. And Sheena's a punk rocker, and my daughter's walking around the house singing it. And it's incredible.
Yay!
So then my wife's like, what? So what's this song? So I put on your performance of playing, and she's like, oh, this is a Beach Boys song. And I'm like, no, it's not Surfin' Safari. It may sound like it, but it's not.
Yeah. I mean, I think about the music. Okay. So I'm going to get on my high horse here.
Do it.
And I did this interview actually about 6 months ago, maybe 7 months ago. And it was such an honor. And I got to do an interview for the parenting section of the New York Times.
Oh, wow.
And it was about the state of children's music, but music that like targets kids 5 and under.
Mhm.
And this stuff is so pandering, and it's so like, let me sit my kid in front of something. So, I mean, and I get like, it's hard to be a parent right now, more than I think than ever, because, you know, generally you have both parents working, you know, or there's a parent who stays home, but also has something they need to do. And that's not everybody, but I think that's in general the kind of the state of of most people in the US right now. And trying to give the kids as much attention as we want to is very difficult. Mm-hmm. And so there's this thing of, it's like, I gotta set them down and put them in front of this thing. And I think to a certain degree, we all do it, and it's okay. It is what it is, right? But I am personally very cautious and careful about what I set my kids down in front of. When my girls were very, very young, and this may sound crazy to some people, but have you ever seen there's these movies? One's called Baraka, and the other one's called Samsara. They are essentially video essays. There's no dialogue, and it's all shots, beautiful cinematography, and shots of like landscapes across the world, and like cultures and all sorts of stuff. And it is interesting to look at. It is beautiful. It is educational. It is gripping. And this is what I would show my girls when they were very small, instead of, you know, like, and the baby Einstein stuff is cool, but like, for like, I go to my grandmother when I have questions oftentimes, because I feel like there's something that they, especially as her being a woman at a certain time when women, and she's a feisty, like she raised a bunch of kids by herself when my grandfather was off at war or doing other things or what have you, traveled a lot for work. And, you know, and she's still like, she's 94 years old. And if like she thinks you're wrong, she'll tell you to your face. And if you act like a jackass, she's going to hit you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, I think that's important. And it's like, how did she define and create, and like, what were the parts of back then that were important? And it's like, there was a certain amount of exposure to culture and understanding and life, and not like candy coating things, you know, that like, I think kids pick up on, and I think they are capable of grasping a lot, whether they can like process it or not, like they'll do in their own time. But I'm not saying, you know, sit them down in front of Die Hard, which, you know,
I've done,
but fair enough.
We talked about all of Joe's parenting fails with movies a couple weeks ago. You should check it out.
Yeah, I am a big failure when it comes to movies.
But it's like, I played, you know, Samsara and Baraka for my kids, like when my kids were very, very small, and especially having a kid who was on the spectrum. My oldest daughter, the only thing that she really found soothing was Miles Davis's Live Evil.
Wow.
And Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here.
Holy jeez.
And when she was really in pain and confused and hurting, and you know, you're talking about someone who not only is just on a basic level of all kids trying to like put everything together and is totally overwhelmed with sensory and all sorts of stuff, but is also having on another level an existential crisis, because the fabric of their reality is constantly being pulled like this, and they feel like they're falling through the seams because of the way that her brain just processes information and sees the world. And so I had to abandon all concepts of like, this is this and that is that. And I had to just experiment. And I have found that with my own kids, like, they can do so much more than I give them credit for. And like, and that's exciting to me. Again, like, they've never seen Jaws, you know, but like, they like we, you know, but I think a little bit of like letting them communicate their limits to a degree Like my eldest wanted to watch, or my youngest wanted to watch Star Wars, and we were watching A New Hope, but then and she was fine with everything. She saw Luke's parents. She was okay with that. She's like, yeah, it's a movie. I get it. No worries. You know, she's 5. She's okay. But then in the trash compactor, she's like, nope, move it along. And I'm like, okay, good. You know your limits. That's great. Like, you know, and I'm sure somebody with an actual child psychology degree is like, you're scarring your children. Yeah. But guess what? Everybody talks about their parents in therapy, so I don't.
Exactly. Trust me, I'm scarring my children so hard every day. So
they still crawl into bed with me in the morning. They still like love me to death. You know, supposedly. That's what they say anyway.
That's it. You know. You're doing something right.
Yeah.
It's Paul talked about the Ramones. When you pulled out Paul Simon, I was like, yeah, I'm in. But I do have a song to pitch for you. Maybe moving forward, maybe you can figure out an arrangement on "It's Tricky" by Run DMC.
Oh yeah, you know, I will say rap is a tough one.
You think?
Yeah, I was even sketchy about. So I had a mom who, because I'm always asking, I'm like, hey, is there anything I can add to the set? Because you know, I mean, I only have so many songs, and I can always add more. But I'm very picky.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to add. I try to make sure it's something that has a certain amount of lyrical complexity, rhythmic complexity, and is also fun for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, because again, like if you look back at this kids music that stood the test of time, right? Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. That tune is no slouch.
Nope.
That's an interesting tune. It's complex. It has the thematically it's compelling. It draws a line, like you can, you know, think through it. So for us to be like congratulations to the person who wrote Baby Shark.
Yeah.
They're rolling in dough. I personally don't subscribe. That's no judgment. Everybody's got to do what they got to do to wake up and go to sleep as them and feel like they can, you know, they did an okay job. Like, so like, but for me, I'm like, I think, and my kids know I don't like that song and they sing it all the time.
Yeah. It's because they love you.
That's right. I was just going to say the same thing. It's funny. Yeah. I love your take on Itsy Bitsy Spider myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. You bring new elements to those songs, and it's amazing. So what I did from Let's Make Music, I thought, maybe it's time for my daughter to learn about Real Big Fish.
So that's a tough one.
So I pulled out one of your live DVDs and put it on, and pointing out who you were. Right. Daddy, he swears a lot more in this movie than he does on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm like, it was a different time, honey. But getting into the ska music and Real Big Fish and everything's so happy. I always think of some of your songs where you're telling people to F off or whatever, and it's so upbeat and happy. You feel good about saying it. It's pretty fantastic. So then notice that you had a big part, I believe, in Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s, that documentary.
Yeah.
Could you just tell us what part you played? I know you were in the documentary itself, but you were also doing some sort of media tour with it. What was your involvement in that?
Taylor, the director, he called me up because he was coming to New York, and he said, hey, I'm making this documentary, and Christian from the Aquabats recommended that I talk to you when I come. And I was unbelievably flattered. The one thing that I think Real Big Fish, we always had a sort of an issue with is we always teetered on this weird line that I think so many ska bands that reached the level that we did. So like Less Than Jake, I think the Boss Tones, you know, just to name a few of our contemporaries, was this thing where like we weren't quite famous, though we knew famous people, right? And like, so like you get, I think we just, I can only speak for myself. I always had a very hard time really quantifying our importance, you know, because I wake up and go to sleep as me, you know, like I have tummy issues, you know, like, you know, it's neat. And so to think about, so just to think anything that I did had this much impact was just, it just didn't, I just can't, like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Though it was special for me because I mean, it shaped my life in ways that, you know, are undefinable.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to take this on a personal level. Joe didn't know I was going to go this way. So I'm going to let you know when I was introduced to you guys. So I was in my teens. I was huge into hip hop music. Love the rap music. That's all I listened to. Year 2 of college, I move in with my buddy Brent, and he throws on Snoop Dogg Baby. And that's the moment I fell in love with Real Big Fish and my journey into ska music. And now I'm, you know, watching you do your thing on Let's Make Music and bringing your humor to that, to the documentary, has me flipping through all of my CD books, seeing what I still have. And you hit on a bunch of my favorites with Less Than Jake and the Boss Tones too, right? It's such great music. So I'm going to thank you for helping get me through my teens and 20s, man. You brought a lot of fun, a lot of party, you and your
thank you. Yeah, it was fun. And like, so when Taylor asked me to be a part of the thing, I was like, sure, of course. I mean, you know, and then when the movie was done, I couldn't make it out to the premiere, but I saw the turnout for the premiere and I was like, this is crazy. Like, and it coincided with this thing called Back to the Beach, which was a big like music festival put on by a friend of mine. And it had a lot of the ska bands and it was really cool. And then I was releasing some music at the same time. I released a 7-inch and my manager was like, why don't we couple this together? And I was like, okay. And then when I saw the movie, I was so struck by it. And I like, honestly, like I think about the movie, I still get like very emotional. The ska scene saved my life. And that's no joke. You know, it was extremely, I was an extremely like displaced kid. You know, I was the outcast of band geeks. You know what I mean? Like, so to be at so band geeks, and then even the band geeks thought I was even more of an idiot. So like I was like, oh, where do you go from there? Like, you join a ska band and join the ska scene. And it was like, I found like-minded people. I found a community in a way that I had never dreamt of before, you know, so I knew what it meant to me. And then to see a movie that was essentially saying that I had done something and preserved something and enriched something that had done that for other kids, really kind of shook my tree. Mm-hmm. And it felt important to participate in promoting this project that talked so much about the importance of community and fellowship and togetherness and support, and the difference between fitting in and belonging, right? Because that's the whole point. Like, I was always trying to fit in. Mm-hmm. But when I found the scene, I found a place where I belonged.
Right.
I didn't have to change. It wasn't like, we accept you, you know, and you accept you and your shortcomings. It was, we accept you, period.
Right.
You know, like, and I think that kind of thing is in short supply. I think the idea of scenes is not what it once was. And I'm not an old fuddy-duddy who's going to be like, oh, we had it so good in our day, because it's a different time. And it's like, everybody has their great thing. But I think the one element that can get lost through a lot of like the broadening of scenes through online communities and stuff like that is, we need to remember that this is about like unity and fellowship and like lifting up of one another. Like I found the strength to be able to be helpful. You know what I mean? Like that's what I turned other people's like support into, was support for other people, instead of like, I'm going to keep this all for myself.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, and I don't know. I think when we have something that we belong to and that's primarily online, or if you don't go out and support your local music scene that you find you're connected to, then it's really easy to become one-sided. And not participate or support, and allow those things to flourish and change and grow. You know, that was one of the things about the documentary as well, is you had a lot of people that were complaining about like, oh, it changed. I mean, you sat there and you listened to Tim explain the history of ska music, that it started as this, and it was a combination of the music that was brought out, you know, that they were playing on the cruise ships and mixed with Mento. Right. And then they brought in the R&B, they brought in all this stuff, and then ska became this and ska became this. And then they brought in this and it became this. And yet when we did our thing and we brought in, you know, the punk rock music and we brought in the glam rock, people were like, oh, you can't do that to ska. And I was like, dude, that's what ska is.
So true.
You know what, you can't consume something stagnant. It's poisonous.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
So like, that's the point, right? Like, I'm always intrigued, just like, and like, I love seeing what the new kids are doing with ska music. I got to do a show with Goldfinger in New Jersey, was that January or was that December? I can't remember, but John called me up. He's like, hey, come play trumpet. And so I went. This was a cool festival. And I met these cats, like this band named Catbite, which is my favorite. I got to meet this kid, Jeremy, who runs, the Ska Tune Network, which is so fun, and it's so rad what he's doing. I got to meet the Kill Lincoln guys. I got to connect with some old friends as well. It's just like, you know, but it was about people getting out of the house and like going and supporting this thing and like seeing faces and I don't know. That's my whole.
That's awesome. So you touched upon your stuff, your newer stuff. So The Hilarious and Welcome to New York, right?
Yeah.
You got more stuff coming out?
I do. It's been slow going. I always have like a bevy of tunes. I'm very slow at getting stuff out. I mean, like, very slow. And my manager is always very frustrated. I'm a tough nut to crack. I get real distracted, but I mean, like, you know, my wife and kids come first. Like that's the most important thing. You know, I think it was easier to focus on music when it was the one thing that was my biggest passion, but it's like my kids, my family got to come first. So, I have 2 more tunes right now that I'm working with a friend of mine that will probably, I don't know if they'll be produced exactly the same way. We were talking about the instrumentation, stuff like that. And it's harder when it's like now everybody's in lockdown and it's like, I got to record stuff here in my office, send it to him in LA, and then we'll talk about it and go back and forth. But there's a whole probably 2 albums written. Wow. Cause I write constantly. I'm one of those people that is very susceptible to, the imposter voice, the voice that goes like, you're a phony, you're a fake, and everyone hates you. And I think the one thing, and I don't know if you've found this as well, I think this is one thing when you're a creative person and you become an adult, finding the people to participate in something creative with becomes more difficult, and finding people to give the energy and dedication to something, and their free time to something, that you believe in, it becomes more difficult. So, I mean, I'm sure like, you know, you guys have like, it takes effort to put on a podcast, and it's, you know,
well, we just make it look easy.
Some guys have all the lights in the studios. Other guys got glass panels behind them. You know, it takes all kinds.
We don't know what we're going to do when this whole thing lifts and we can all actually have to record together again. We have no idea what we're going to do.
So you're in Brooklyn now?
I am. Yeah. We're in Brooklyn right now. We're in Park Slope. We dig it. I mean, we miss California like crazy. My whole family's there, and like, my brothers, and it's tough.
Yeah.
But, and it's different. Like, I mean, I think my wife and we were both raised in Southern California. And so there are parts that are great about living here. There's a lot of culture. There's a lot of like, art and life here, and the food, forget about it. I'm watching Ugly Delicious right now.
Okay.
And it's a great show. David Chang, who owns Momofuku.
Yep.
And it's just like, I'm always just like, oh, yeah, it always comes back to here. But the one I just watched the taco episode, and it's like, oh, yeah, we don't know. New Yorkers don't know. You don't know. You don't know the glory of a taco. Like, it's just like, like he says, like, I don't really care about a taco. And I was like, oh, you son of a tacos are extraordinary.
Oh yeah. So it's funny because Brooklyn, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. I have a 10-year-old daughter, Ella, and we were talking about family vacations, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, and I don't know from where, she's like, I want to go to Brooklyn. And I'm like, all right. That's great. And then Paul and I came up with this idea that the two of us would go to Brooklyn instead. I don't really know where that, but like, to hear my 10-year-old and she can't explain why she doesn't really know anything. It's just like, oh yeah, I want to go to Brooklyn. I'm like, yeah, I want to go to Brooklyn. So let's do that trip. But then Paul and I were talking, and I'm going to steal his question here, but where are you? So you're in Brooklyn. And your friends from SoCal come up to visit. Where are you taking them for pizza?
There's a few places.
Okay. I'm going to write them down. Hold on. I got to get my pencil.
So we'll need a few days.
The thing that's terrible is that I know the places of no place. I know no place's names.
Perfect.
That's the hard part.
This is our research.
Right. All I can tell you is it's like, there's a place in Coney Island. Hold on. I'm going to text my wife while we're talking.
Yeah, you are.
Because she knows the names of all of these places. And what is
it's fantastic.
This is the best.
See, Scott's doing the research for us. So when we go to...
Hold on. I don't know why I'm typing it. In Coney Island. Called. Period.
That's awesome.
See, we'll send the next message to her.
I wouldn't have even thought of going to the phone. I would have just taken one earphone out and yelled upstairs.
Yeah, no, so I'm in quite literally in the basement. Mm-hmm. I am subterranean at the moment. And so I would be yelling through probably not just floors, but also the chaotic sound of some sort of my children have earned their television time right now. And then plus my wife at the sewing machine, which, so we realized we have no idea what silence is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Look, Scott, I have a 3.5-month-old now.
Oh, so, God bless you.
I've got a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 3.5-month-old that I don't think has slept since he was born. So, trust me, I get not understanding silence. Like, we had one night where he slept through the night, which was weird because it seemed early. And we did that thing that we did twice before. We're going, is he okay? Why didn't we wake up? But apparently he was okay because the next morning he was very loud. So,
Scott, what's your take on sleep training?
Oh, here we go.
Well, it was different because again, like having a special needs child, you learn to kind of roll with the punches. Mm-hmm. So, we gave it a shot for about a week.
Okay.
And it did not go well.
Not surprised.
We didn't really want to do it. It wasn't our jam. Mm-hmm. We didn't feel like we had read some things and we felt like our style of parenting, which of course on your first child is, can you call it a style?
Yeah. It's just throw a bunch of balls in the air and see which ones.
Yeah. It's it's the joke about the guy running away from the lion, and it's like, so far, so good. But yeah, and when I say a week, I think it was 5 days. And when I'm being honest, it was probably 3. But it wound up like not only was Ella Pearl, my eldest, was she unhappy, my wife and I were unhappy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And like, we already, it just, and there's the two schools of thought. Like they get their detachment, and then the other side, they learn to not try. It's like, we had to decide what was going to make a more satisfying home for us. And so we decided that we would kind of try to do a hybrid of both. And when I say that I meant my wife said, you do it.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay.
Good call.
Because, I believe in happy wife, happy life. Mm-hmm. And, so it's actually was it's the greatest joys of my life, was like getting to like figure out the like subtleties of communication with nonverbal life entities of the same species.
Right. Yeah.
And especially with a special needs child who part of her thing was she was born with no concept of communicative intent. Right. Mm-hmm. So like even the most basic, kids know how to, before they know how to talk or anything, they know how to point. They know how to do these things. She had no idea. Communication was not a concept for her. And so it was just meltdowns. She had feelings, she had thoughts, she had needs. And so it was just meltdowns. And so there would have we had to become much more attuned to subtle details and things. And so teaching both my girls to sleep looked very different. And I was willing to do different things at different times. We let our daughter sleep in a mamaroo some nights.
Yeah.
Because that was the only thing that would work. And it's like, okay, yeah, it works, and then we moved her to a crib. And then it was stuff like where I can hold on. I can show you. I can just describe it. I had this motion that was partially like this.
It's like the ocean.
But there was also like leg work involved in it. And I would have to do that for like an hour. Tears streaming down my face. And I'm just crying. I'm crying because I'm in pain and I'm tired. And she's slowly going to sleep. And if you stop, she's up. Yeah. And you're like, you got to start all over. And then there was like putting her down in the crib, putting a hand, doing the thing. And there was singing. And then sometimes singing didn't work. It's the thing where like, anytime you think you found something that worked, tomorrow doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, but I equated it to, how did I learn to blow into the Nintendo cartridge and snap it in?
Beautiful.
Everybody figured it out. Yep. But how? Yep. Nobody told me to go snap and then shove the cartridge in eventually on top of it. You just figure these things out because you have to. And it's like, my kids both sleep great. And actually right now, my youngest, who was the better sleeper, is not sleeping well because she's not getting enough exercise because we're trapped inside and we try to run around and we wrestle and we do all sorts of stuff. But now my eldest is old enough to read herself to sleep. And it's like, and so I'm having to do like a certain amount where I lay in bed with my girl. I'll sleep outside of her bed. Sometimes it's like, dude, you got to just figure it out. You got to make it happen. I love you. I have stuff to do. I need to pay attention to mom. Part of us having a great day is us having a separate night.
Yep.
And it's like, you need a break from me, because if not, you're going to get tired of my face. Yeah. And then I can't change it,
It is.
And so I think we don't avoid tears because we think there's anything wrong with tears, but we do try to figure out what their actual needs are instead of, my father-in-law has this great story where they were trying to, my mother-in-law was trying to breastfeed my wife's sister, and they're having the hardest time, and she wouldn't latch. And so they called the La Leche group, and he calls, and it's like 2:00 in the morning, whatever. He's like, I don't know what's going on. She won't latch. You know, we've read the books. It's all the thing. And the person on the phone goes, okay. I know exactly what's going on. Your daughter has not read the books. And he's like, I hear, okay. All right, I got you. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying without saying it. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, like, we're all trying to figure out how to blow into the cartridge and snap it in.
That's
that.
an amazing way to put it.
Yeah.
It's an amazing way to put it. I got to go explain that to my wife now.
Yeah. Like, and I think the only thing that winds up being quote unquote wrong is when we make this stuff about us.
Mm-hmm.
My kid's success or struggle has got nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I need to do is participate with love and understanding and patience. And the rest is like if my kid's acting like out in public, I don't gotta get weird about it. They're kids. Their brains aren't developed to have impulse control. If somebody's got a problem with that, that's why I say, you know, it's why I say when I do Wheels on the Bus, right? When I do the kids, is the babies on the bus go wham, 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 which is a part of their development and how they, you know, they increase lung capacity and they exercise communicative intent. It's important. This stuff is not like, it's just all of a sudden we're like with online communities and everybody's a freaking know-it-all that we have this parent shaming.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I refuse to participate in it. First of all, because I survived in a ska band when the whole world wanted us to go away. You know what I mean? So like my wife is always in envy because I don't care what people think.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my girls this all the time. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. The only person I need to worry about letting down is myself.
Wow,
if I don't feel like I'm doing my best, that's about me. And anybody else who doesn't feel, if I feel like I'm doing my best and anyone else doesn't think so, then read the definition of best.
Yeah.
I can't give more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No one can ask anybody than their best. And if I feel like I've done my best, then I don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
So sorry.
So-
I get a little.
Here's
Man,
the deal. We're out of time for today, but here's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Next time, I want to bring you on again. And
Okay.
I'm sure, Paul, as long as you're up for it, but we're not even going to talk about music. We're going to talk about parenting.
That would
Okay.
be amazing.
Because
Yeah.
you have so many like great, like I feel like in this time, in this 40 minutes we've been sitting here, I feel like I've learned so much, and I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to sit with my wife and we're just going to have a conversation about everything. I'm just going to show her this.
Yeah. And I'll say with a 10-year-old, the exact same. Like you opened my eyes just now to so much.
Yeah.
That you're right. That like I'm the one that's come on, stop out there. And you're right. We just gotta be about love. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, some of it is true. Like, you know, there's behavioral stuff that like, because they don't have the impulse control, you got to curb a little bit and you got to get that programming, for lack of a better word, in there, which goes like, hey, that's not the way we do things. You know, like I say no to my kids, but I do try to avoid judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Like good, bad, they're working it out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like you made a mistake. I tell my kids all the time, I think you made a mistake. Because guess what? We all do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't learn anything if you don't make mistakes.
Yep.
And like, I continually tell my kids, you know what? Dad made a mistake. I even tell my kids I was wrong because I think that that's important. Because again, I can only define on certain levels. Obviously, there are universal intrinsic truths and wrongs. But like, if I feel like what I did wasn't okay, then I got to fess up to it. And then if they see that, then they can do it. And like, you know, then all of a sudden the pressure of like school social interactions, all of this stuff, it seems to melt away, and like the approval of others no longer matters. So like I have my eldest loves to try to get the approval of kids who do not want to play with her. And I'm like, I appreciate that you're not going to give up on this. And I love that tenacity, but realize just not everybody's going to be your friend. And I was like, and that's not about you, but it's also not about them.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it just is what it is.
It's things like this that I've now taken away. So thank you, sir, for bringing me all of these pieces of joy. Thanks for joining us today. And definitely, if you're up for it, we definitely want to bring you back again.
I'd love to. I love parenting. It truly is. It's like, it's the most wondrous thing I get to do day in, day out. And I love not doing it perfectly.
Nice.
Awesome. Well,
thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Today. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Have a great day. We'll see you later.